stream and Back to the Futures Fanatic channel. This is going to be our Power Hour afternoon trade from 12 to 1. That's on the left coast. This is a Friday. I wish it was Friday. It's Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I'm going to try something a little different today where I actually go through and record some pre-recorded. It's not pre-recorded, but where I do some live teaching and education around some topics that I want to cover. Today it's going to be about multi-propping, how you kind of do it, the ways to start out, and also trade copying. We'll see if we can fit it all into one particular stream. I also have a bunch of trades going on at the same time, so we'll see if we can kind of manage that in certain account groups. I'm near or at my daily risk budget for the day. I'll take a look at those. But the focus for today is going to be on these two blog posts. So let me just drop this into the chat here, and boom, boom, boom. You can always find it on your own. So the first I want to go through, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to go through the concepts here. So as many of you have probably seen, I will often have a screenshot that looks something like this, where I have a lot of different accounts connected. Some of them are evaluations. In fact, most of them are usually evaluations. And then I try to keep between 3 and 10 that are in what we would call the funded state. And then I also connect a few live accounts. Now, how do I do that on NinjaTrader? Until sort of the NinjaTrader Tradeovate acquisition a couple years ago, it was very difficult to truly multi-prop on many platforms, and we'll get into it in a little bit more detail. But when Tradeovate and Ninja came together, they created a way in which you can do this relatively easily. Now, I want to do a little caveat here, which is you don't need to stack your entire Ninja or even Quant Tower. I'll get into various ways you can do this with all kinds of connected accounts. That's not really necessary. It's a gradual process, and as I say here on the channel very often, what we're looking to do is use leverage across accounts within the same firm first, and then you can diversify and also potentially, I guess, hedge against individual firm risk if one of them, for instance, happens to not be able to pay, or various conditions might happen in the future that we don't know about. You probably have your preferences in which firms you like to work with. Okay, so how do I set it up, and how is it done? So first of all, multi-propping is exactly what it sounds like. It's just connecting accounts from multiple prop firms, and then usually more than one account at each firm. So let's just say, for argument's sake, we keep it somewhat simple, and you chose 3 firms and you did 3 accounts at each firm. So you had a total of 9. Now, the first thing to know is, how do you set that up? Because it's pretty important which connection you choose from each broker. So the easiest way to do it that I know of, and again, I know there's other ways, and we'll get into it a little bit if we have time, but the easiest way to do it is to use NinjaTrader and then a Tradeovate prop account. Okay, so what are the prop firms that currently offer Tradeovate? They are, and there might be a few others, but basically Apex, Tradeify, My Funded Futures, Take Profit, Trade Day, Elite Trader Funding, Top Step, Blue Sky, Funded Next Futures, which is really new. I'd probably stay away from them, and the Trading Pit. Now, if you know of another one, you can leave it in the chat here, and as we do post-production, I might add it here so that we can mention another one. Okay, so the first ingredient is NinjaTrader. The next ingredient is you're going to choose a prop firm that supports Tradeovate, because once you have a prop firm that supports Tradeovate, then you can simply log into multiple instances of Tradeovate on NinjaTrader, and you will have, voila, what you kind of need, right? That's the first part of multi-propping. I'll also point out, I'm going to get into trade copiers today a little bit, because that was the next blog post that I did, but you don't actually have to have a trade copier when you start out. You could really manage probably 6, maybe as many as 10 by just using the drop down that's in Ninja. So if I go over to this screen over here, we have this drop down. These are all the accounts that I'm connected to, right? And I have a copier running right now, which we'll get into, but it's not that difficult to just select the account that you want to work with. I use account groupings, if you will. And as I mentioned in the blog post, highly recommend that if you're watching this in video format or listening to the live stream right now, when you get a chance, just go to the blog, read the 2 articles, because they'll go through this in a lot more detail. One of the things that I do is I actually set up sort of account groups where I'll take a little bit more risk and test the waters, if you will, with some evaluation accounts. That does not mean acting like a bozo, putting on more size, trading at levels that don't make any sense, doing a different strategy, trading in two different directions, trading two different firms in two different directions, doing any of those kinds of things. It simply just means if we get to a level, I'll start that level by sending out what we call a scout. Now, that scout might die. Generally, in my trading style, the scout doesn't really die, but it might take a little bit more heat than I want to take with some of my funded accounts. But anyway, you get the gist. These are all the things that I'm connected to right now. Now, also note that you have to do this with Tradevate because you cannot do it with Rhythmic, okay? So Rhythmic does not allow on NinjaTrader to have multiple connections, all right? So as an example, if you're working with Blue Sky offers only Rhythmic, and now they offer Project X as well, but Project X is a closed system, and you can't really, copy anywhere outside of the firm. So when we get to Copiers, I'll talk about the various flavors of copying too. You can copy within a firm on a platform, and that works perfectly. That's a great way to get familiar with copying before you start to actually multi-prop. All right. So NinjaTrader, Tradevate, and then the next piece is Replikanto. Okay. So Replikanto is what I use. Now, in the next blog post, which we'll get into today, I get into Replikanto and alternatives to Replikanto, but Replikanto is specific to NinjaTrader. So the way you're stitching this all together is you kind of have to understand how Ninja works, or else you probably wouldn't even understand how to do a plugin. There are other free versions of Copiers, and again, there's other ways to copy. For instance, you can copy on something like Quant Tower, which does allow you to log into multiple instances of Rhythmic. All right? Okay. So going down here a little bit more, I'm just going to read part of this. So here's how it works. You connect all your accounts to, let me go back to here. You connect all your accounts to Ninja. You designate one as a lead account. Then you're going to sort of trade from the chart, and all the other accounts are going to then copy this. All right. So on this right here, my lead account is right here. If I put an order right here.
Order submitted.
Watch, the order is going to be in every spot, right? As in every single account. Okay, so there's the order. If I go down to here, there's the order. You get the idea, right? Okay, so I'll get into copying in a little bit more detail. I just wanted to start with how you make this work. Okay, so you connect as many Tradevate accounts as you need to connect, and then you're going to use Replikanto, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail. Now, the next question I get a lot of is, why does multi-propping make sense? Why would you do anything like this? Okay, and the biggest takeaway here is that it gives you the ability to scale your results without really taking on additional risk. It's also something, the advantage is psychological, and I don't like to talk about trade psychology all that much, but let's be honest, bigger numbers when they're red are a little bit more scary, right? As opposed to understanding that gains and losses are amplified if you're using a trade copier and you're trading multiple accounts, but it's not the same as looking at a $500 loss in one account versus a $50 loss in 10 accounts, right? And the opposite is true as well. The $50 win becomes $500 across 10 different accounts. And in TDG, we do this all day long, folks. So the way our P&L porn channels, if you will, I should have started this before. They look a lot different than what you might see at, I've been in this Discord group that's some algo that's, people are trading 30 accounts and 20 accounts at just Apex and 20 at some other firms. And then they're, $10,000 up and down in each account. Generally, you only see the green stuff. What ours looks like is, first of all, payouts that look a lot more like this, right? $750. If you keep your cost basis low, this is the greatest return that you can possibly get. Because if you trade this way, yes, your gains are a little smaller, but you don't have all the butthole pucker time and fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and this vicious cycle of blowing up. I just had a Trader Talk Tuesday today in my trade room, and we talked with Anthony, and he was mentioning that, like many traders, whether they're in my room or part of our community or not, they kind of have to find their way to this place on their own. I don't know exactly why, but I preach the concept of just staying really small, trading things like the Dow Jones, so that your results are something more like this. Just very small payouts. Now, the way we get to those very small payouts is through, let me see, I'll just pull the daily P&L from right here. Okay. This is important. Let's look at this one. See? That looks like a lot. It's really not for this particular trader. That's the way you really manage risk, okay? But we'll often see things like this, and hopefully you get the idea, right? Here's a perfect TDGY day. 43, 44 bucks across 10 or 15 accounts, right? Okay. So that's the idea, is that multi-propping is going to keep you under control both when you're losing, and let you know that trading small can amplify itself when you're winning, right? So can I really quickly just get a 1 for picture and sound? I just want to make sure, as I'm recording this whole thing, I see that not many people are commenting in the chat. So if I could just get a 1 for picture and sound so I know it's all working, that would be great. All right. Now, a couple rules for you to know before you start, right? If you're going to multi-prop, understand what the rules are at each firm that you're trading, right? So getting back to Bullinox for a moment, my understanding, and I haven't experienced this personally, but my understanding is they are discouraging the concept of multi-propping, so they do not want to see orders that are coming in externally on Rhythmic. Now, this is not a factor because they don't offer Trade-Evade, and I'm only discussing connecting Trade-Evade supported accounts. Thank you for the picture and sound. But Bullinox would be an example of one that you probably don't want to put in any kind of replication group, even if you have a way of connecting to them from an external source, right? Then you have news trading restrictions, like at firms like My Funded Futures and at Take Profit Trader. They have some news restrictions, so make sure that you're aware of all the rules at any prop firm that you're multi-propping with, right? It becomes if you get too crazy too fast, you can start, let me put on my other glasses. You can start to get into that situation where it's all going well for a little while, and then all of a sudden you thought you made a bunch of money, and you did, but you violated rules in a couple firms, and then you're screwed and you lose those accounts, and then the whole thing seems more complicated than it needed to be. So make sure you're aware of that. Make sure you're aware that some firms have consistency rules, and as I already mentioned, there are some firms that don't allow you to copy. All right. Now, nothing about multi-propping means that you should enhance or extend yourself beyond what you would just do in the lead account. One of the best ways actually to multi-prop is to have a live account, 1 or 2 live accounts, and you only need maybe $2,500, $3,500 in there. I wouldn't do it with $500 or $1,000. That's a little silly. That's basically a couple days worth of risk budget. But if you can afford to put $2,500 or $3,500 into a NinjaTrader account and have it be live, and then use that as your lead account, now you're in a situation in which you are really going to think risk first, right? Because that's real money. And once you get comfortable with that real money, now you can copy, because keep in mind, you can connect to anything you can connect to on Ninja can be then copied and across everything that's available for Ninja to see. So that would be any live account, and that live account could be at NinjaTrader, and it could be at Interactive Brokers. I think the only other one they support is Phillips, and basically Trade-Evade brokerage is Ninja Brokers. There's no difference anymore, okay? So you could have 1 or 2 live accounts. I have one at NinjaTrader, which I don't trade anymore. I just connect for data. Which, quick side note, that, in my opinion, is the best way to do this. If you can do that, that way you can connect to Ninja first, and that's your data connection. There's nothing wrong with connecting to any of these Rhythmic prop accounts first, but that ends up becoming your data connection, and they're not as reliable as connecting directly to the broker. The next thing I do is then connect to one of I have a lot of IB accounts, but I just connect to one instance of TWS and one instance of a tracking account, and that tracking account is right over here. In fact, it's, let me bring it over here. So it's right here. This tracking account starts each month with $7,500 in it, so it's up about $400. And I do things a little bit different in this tracking account. I do trade the treasuries, and then I just trade micros. But other than that, a lot of the time, this is the lead account that I'm using when I'm multi-propping. Because the other thing that's great about using a live account, especially at IB, is that they are restricting you to true margin, not this nonsense that AMP and even NinjaTrader allow day trader margins that are very low. And then, as I've said many times on my channel, don't get me started about how over leveraged you are in terms of buying power, how unrealistic it is relative to the real world when it comes to the buying power that's available in these prop programs. Okay, so start small, scale smart. All right, so just 2 or 3 funded accounts from different firms. Please don't start with 10 at 2 or 3 different firms, or you're just going to have problems with the copier. You're going to have problems getting it set up. You're going to get logged out. You're going to get frustrated. You know, keep it really small. We have a lot of people in our group that have been in the group 2, 3, 4 years, and they see people that are copying across multiple accounts and generating more income or more losses. Keep that in mind. Leverage cuts both ways when you're using a copier. And they're not yet multi-propping. They might just be multi-propping by logging into several different web-based accounts from Project X or something like that, or Trade8, and then just trading them individually the same way they might trade their broker account. Okay, so you don't have to get totally crazy, but just keep it simple, and then you can scale from there. All right, so the next thing is I wanted to get into Replikanto and the copying and that kind of stuff. So that's the next, where is it? Let's go back to here, and I'll go back to the next article. So the next article is right here, the idea of trade copying. Okay, so let's go through this real quickly. I use Replikanto, but I have tested and used all the others, and I don't have a real preference for any of these. I'm just trying to put together an ecosystem that would work for more people when they're starting out. That ecosystem is NinjaTrader, Replikanto, and Trade8 prop accounts. Now, some other options are things like affordable indicators or ETP, which is Expert Trader Programmer. There's some free ones out there as well. Okay, so both of those are going to work for NinjaTrader. Affordable indicators is much more NinjaTrader specific, whereas Expert Trader Programmers, or ETP, is more platform agnostic. So the reason I use a trade copier, I've already discussed this, it allows you to trade between live accounts and your prop accounts, or between prop accounts and your live accounts, or between multiple prop accounts at multiple firms. Anything that Ninja can see will allow you to connect to there. Okay. Now here's the reason I use Replikanto, and again, affordable indicators and even some free copiers are very similar, but it's very native to NinjaTrader. Okay, so there's no extra dashboard or extra thing that you have to log into. They also have a network remote mode. So for instance, I'm currently running 4 different VPNs over here, and I guess I just hit target there. And I'm long the NASI here, being a little aggressive. I'm going to buy this pullback. Submitted. So I'm long the NASDAQ. These are Bullinox accounts. So these are not part of any copy or replication group, right? And I'm not going to send signals to this VPN. This, what you're seeing here on the screen right here, this is a VPN, okay? It's not part of my, you guys all know what a VPN is, okay? So what Replikanto allows you to do is you can actually do remote mode across VPN replication groups. So I don't want to get too wonky here, but what you could do is have one VPN or even a couple of VPNs, and if they're on the same network, you could use Replikanto to connect to all of your Trade8 and trade those through one instance of Ninja, and then you could have rhythmic logins to VPNs and then copy using the network mode of Replikanto. I don't know if Affordable Indicators offers a network mode. I imagine they probably would. And again, that's probably very advanced, but it's a feature that I really like. By the way, when I'm done recording this, I'll leave links down below to where you can get access to all these things and maybe save a little bit of money if you're interested in terms of all of these tools that I'm talking about. So you want to use a simple replication group and size. I've already talked about that. And it does a really good job of sort of syncing and error management. Some people would argue it doesn't, but I'm pretty aware of when I'm out of sync because I get notifications either from Replikanto or from NinjaTrader letting me know that. All right. And as I've mentioned before, maybe I haven't mentioned it on this video, but if you ever watch any of my streams or anything like that, if I come back to here, you'll see I don't have any stops on these trades. I use portfolio-based risk management, which is a daily risk budget. I talk about this in every single stream. That's the only thing you have to do. You actually don't even have to learn a strategy. You could flip a coin. You could have a camel spit at a trade chart. It doesn't matter what you do. The only thing you have to do is protect risk. You can't eat like a bird and shit like an elephant. If you just manage to learn how to establish, protect, and respect a daily risk budget, your strategy doesn't matter. So because of that, I don't particularly trade with any ATMs and a lot of associated orders. Many of you should, okay? You should trade, of course, with stops and targets on all of your trades when you're first learning. That will complicate trade copying, okay? It's just going to complicate trade copying because now there's multiple orders associated with every single trade. If we go back up here, you'll see that same thing. All I'm doing is working a cover here at VWAP and a cover here at structure, and then an add way up here at what we would call plus twos. By the way, we could get a close today where we close all the way up here at these plus twos. It's definitely possible, okay? So if you're selecting ATMs, I don't even have any ATMs on my machine, but if you're using ATMs and using associated stops and targets, copying can get more complicated and you can see Ninja freeze up, all right? One thing that I definitely do not do anymore when I'm copying is attach an order. So for instance, this order right here, okay, this is the lead account. If I were to attach this order to this line, okay, right here, it will work for a little while, and then if the market starts to get real crazy and it has to cancel and replace orders quite frequently, you're going to see some problems, okay? So let me just manage these trades here a little bit. All right, I'm going to take a graceful exit. This is actually where I entered. Well, let me just do it first so that I can.
Order filled.
So this is a loss. These accounts are hovering very close to their daily risk budget. So there was the add right there, didn't work at all, and I covered it right here. Okay, so this position's still unprofitable. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, do you think we can get to 21,472s today? I've seen some rippers into the close, so we'll see. But again, the associated orders is something to be aware of, and if you have many associated orders, you can get to, I see some questions coming in, which is cool. I will, well, actually no questions. Sorry, I saw that somewhere else. So if you have any questions, pop them in there, and that will help me, end this video by going through any questions. I know I'm covering quite a bit of ground here. So let's go back to the blog post. So I mentioned affordable indicators. It's definitely another one to take a look at. I want to make a note on Apex's funded copier, or their copier. It's a white label version of Replikanto. If you already own it, it's probably fine. But one thing I really do like about Replikanto that I didn't mention before is for a small organization, I really think it's only one guy actually. He does an amazing job of putting out all kinds of updates and patches and fixes, because Ninja's not easy to work with, and their releases can break indicators and break plugins. So he's done a really good job with that. I don't think that's really possible with the white label, so that's why I wouldn't recommend. Apex has made enough money from the trading community already. Those of you who know, I'm still very friendly with Apex. I think they have a place in the marketplace. They're continuously improving. But I wouldn't use their white label version of Replikanto. Okay, a couple other copying things worth noting. I did an entire video on the trade account, the Trade-Evate account grouping. All right, so you can go watch that. It's almost 2 years old. It's not that great, and it's kind of complicated, and I wouldn't recommend using it. But it's another way that you can start playing around with a little bit. And I think that video is still valid. If you go to watch this on the blog and click on this link right here, it will take you to a training that I did on how to use the Trade-Evate account grouping. Quant Tower does allow multiple rhythmic logins. That will probably be for a separate video, okay? They allow multiple rhythmic logins, so you can kind of do this same thing on the Quant Tower platform, but it would be for a different data connection. So you would not be using Trade-Evate, because remember, Trade-Evate, you can only log into Trade-Evate, the website or the web platform, or to Ninja. You can't log into Project X using a Trade-Evate account unless you bought, well, technically unless you bought that from TopStep, but I haven't really kept up with exactly what they're doing, so don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure, for the sake of argument, we're talking about Ninja, Replikanto, and Trade-Evate accounts. So if you're using Quant Tower, it would be rhythmic accounts. Project X is the best way to probably learn just how to copy amongst accounts. They have a built-in trade copier that you can use, and that built-in trade copier is a great resource for again, just having a few accounts and getting familiar with how you want to set up copying logic. One of the things that I mentioned before, which was, keep things simple. I don't do any kind of cross or ratio copying of any kind, where I trade one contract in one group and then 3 in another group, or trade the mini in one group and micros in the other group. I just don't get involved in any of that. As you know from my teaching and what I do here, we kind of want to stick to micros anyway, so I don't get involved in any of that. And then Volumetrica also has a pretty good copier. All right. External platforms. That would be Extreme Expert Trader Programmers and another one called TradeSyncer. There's actually a couple others as well.
Build.
I made this matrix. I don't know if this I think I just hit target again here. Hold on. Let's see. Yep, hit target again. So I'm going to get really aggressive on these buys right here and here.
Submitted.
See if we can come up and make a new high all the way up here at the +2s. Actually,
Order
just going to
submitted.
buy another one here too.
Order filled.
There we go. So we got a 2 lot. This is full scalp mode here at the top of the range,
Order
but we've seen
submitted.
some pretty strong closes of late. So here's the matrix that I created. I think this is pretty accurate. You can take a look at that. If any of you see anything that's inaccurate about it, please let me know. You can leave a comment. That would be helpful. Okay. I've already talked about this, but before you start copying, make sure you start small. Okay. And only copying things that are working, right? So before you get into any of this, you don't need to get into any of this until you've probably met a few criteria, which is, have you passed and taken a payout from one account at one firm? If you still have not passed and taken account from payouts from one account at one firm, then now I know a lot of people are already jumping forward. There's people out there that one of the most requested things, and I guess I can believe it, but is people ask me how to trade their evals versus their live account versus their funded accounts. I'm like, well, trade them the same way. I've mentioned before, you don't get 5 strikes in the minors and 5 strikes in the majors, or unlimited pitches in the minors and then expect you're going to be able to play in the majors. So trade them the same way. So until you have a strategy that's working, and until you've shown that your ability to do this in this environment, don't mess with all this stuff. But yet I still see guys and gals that go out there and buy 10 pre-funded or directive funding accounts, and then they're copying them all over the place and they're blowing them up, and and they live for that one day where they just make 20 or 30, 40,000 in funny money. And then they complain when the firm says the way they got there violated a particular rule. And then they have these people, thou shall go out and name. There's 3 or 4 of them that are their whole content that they create here on YouTube is around sticking up for the trader. I love this. And just doing right by traders by, creating all this nonsense about everyone that generates profit at any prop firm is entitled to a payout. That's just not true. Okay? Let's start there. It's just not true. Now, you can say you danced between the raindrops and you stayed within the letter of the law and screw these guys and I did it right. If you want to do it right, trade micros, trade small, start with a few accounts, trade the Dow Jones, read Prop Done Right, the book right over here, okay? And you will have no problem getting payouts from any of these firms, partially because they built their businesses to worry more about the shot takers, They have not yet figured out how to create blended programs or cohorts that are properly. A couple of them have, firms like Trade Day and some others, they just don't allow a ton of accounts and they take you straight to live. Either does the futures desk. So let me restate that. There are a breed of prop firms which are not as popular as they should be that are doing this right. They're not providing a lot of leverage, they're not providing a lot of accounts, they're putting you live, all those types of things. If you do that, you're going to have no problem with any payouts because it's real live money. And you're not going to get into all this nonsense. So anyway, all of that was to say, only copy what's working. If it's not working, then don't start copying. Don't do multi-propping. So my final thoughts is that this whole thing was about NinjaTrader, Replikanto, and Trade-Evate supported prop firms. If you start with that, that's one way that you can get these account groupings going. But you don't have to go that route. You can also learn how to copy in the Trade-Evate groups. You can copy in Project X or things like that. And you can start by not doing any of this stuff. All right. we'll leave it there.
Order
Both those articles are right here. Let's put this right here. Boom, boom, boom. You're here for the like? Okay, you can move on after that. Cool. All right, so let's go over to this account right here. By the way, always in the bottom over there, I have the P&L for the day for the IB tracking account, so you can always see it. Those who want to troll about live trading versus not live trading or whatever. Anyway, it's right there for you to see. These are prop accounts right here with 5 funded, and all the rest are just evals. I'm on the short side, been fighting this really strong trend the whole day. So this is one thing I can point out, which is fully compliant, and don't trade in different directions or anything. But in these accounts, I happen to be long because I've just been buying pullbacks. Okay, so in these accounts I'm long. I'm actually going to take target a little early.
Order filled.
And this is one of the benefits that you can eventually get into. Again, do not buy a bunch of accounts from 2 different firms and trade them in 2 different directions to only qualify for half of them. This whole blow and go stuff, it's still being taught. It's just insanity to me. I don't know how people actually believe that that's going to work. But what you can do is, take a snapshot, see what's going on here. This is me long the MES. Okay, trading the same strategy, but I'm just buying pullbacks to these moving averages because we have just been moving higher and higher all day. And then over here, this is me short the MES. Okay, now as you can see, they're not from drastically different prices, and they shouldn't be from drastically different prices because I'm not hedging this short here. I'm simply just selling the pops and taking the profit here, and then doing the opposite in a different set of accounts on my VPN. I don't do that every day. It's not part of my strategy. It's just there are days in which you will accidentally get into the ability to have one whole account grouping trend trading and a whole other account grouping not trend trading, okay? And this is actually something you can do when you're multi-propping too, because you can have, now I don't do that in any of these connected accounts. In other words, every one of these accounts is all in the same position. They're all short, okay? But you can have accounts from one firm that you're trading in one direction and accounts from the others if it's part of an overall strategy. I probably shouldn't have gotten into any of this because it's way more complicated than is necessary. But it actually does reflect reality. For 15, 20 years, I would have 4 or 5, 20, 15, $20,000 accounts ish at a couple different firms, and this was before the micros. And I would sometimes have just a hedging account. This is done a lot in Forex, and this is hedging for the right reasons, right? Where I'm staying in an unprofitable position, but I've hedged that position slightly. Okay, it's the same thing as buying puts, right? When you're in a stock. Even if the stock is up a little bit or up a lot and you just want to hold that long profitable position, but hedge it by buying puts. Unfortunately, what's happened in these prop programs is they've used the term dollar cost averaging to mean something similar, what is not really dollar cost averaging. It's just sort of double down donkey martingaling if it's done incorrectly, when really dollar cost averaging is the best possible investment strategy you could ever have, right? So right here, I'm short, and then right over here, I'm long. So let's watch the longs, and then we know that if we hit target on these longs, then we're losing money on the other side. All right. Do I recommend a specific time frame or vary it? So the strategies that you're seeing, let me go over to this screen again. I have 2 strategies, and they're complementary. Look, I'm even short gold way up here. I forgot about that. I had an order resting right at, can't see this working out. Welcome to self-deprecating Rod. Short a market that's already closed. All right, this is silly. I'm just going to leave it open. But all right, so let's go to this one here. You can see I'm short the S&P, same position as we have over here. So in terms of time frames, I just used 2 different time frames on NinjaTrader. This is a 30-minute chart. Look at the girth on this frickin' extreme turn sell. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the condition came off and the market still went higher. So the momentum is so strong today that it's not really worth being fighting it. And it's also an outside day up. Okay, this means, whoops, didn't mean to draw a line there. This is a very important line right here, okay? It's the prior session's high. Whenever you are outside of the prior session's range, you really don't want to be fighting that, okay? In other words, you don't want this position on. You don't want this position on either, okay? So I'm going to be losing most likely on these two positions. We'll see if we get any retracement, but I think it's probably unlikely. So in terms of time frame, I use Brickwicks, which are Renkos over here. And these are various settings. You can find out all about the settings that we use if you try our 2-week free trial. You can find out about our 2-week free trial by reading the ebook. The Prop Done Right ebook will direct you to how you can find out about our trial. So I'm using a 30-minute for higher time frame, and then I'm just using these over here. Now on Trading View, I have the stay in your lane. Look how it hugged the +2s this whole time. So I've done one trade here where I sold 21,338 and I covered it for a whopping 38 points. And now I'm still short and I'm resting in order to sell way up here at the 21,447s. Man, will they fry the shorts if they do a 100-point ripper into the close. But this is using the stay in your lane on a 5-minute chart. Okay, so and the reason I'm using 5-minute charts over here is because TradingView doesn't support, it does not support the Brickwicks. Okay. So there you go. That's the answer on that. TradingView usable to trade on Trade-Evate and copy on Ninja. No, you can't do that because it's limited to, you can only, so I'm connected here to Tasty, where I have an IRA and I have an individual account. I just use this for testing, and I mean, it's a real live account, but if you had your Trade-Evate accounts connected over here, you can see them, but you can't select any of them. You can't really use TradingView as your lead at all. Okay, so it just won't work. Great question. Yeah, TradingView is not going to be useful for that, and you can't do it on Trade-Evate either because you can only be logged into one instance of Trade-Evate. So the only way to do this the way I'm describing it is the way I'm describing it, which would be NinjaTrader as your platform, Replikanto as your copier, although you could use affordable indicators, you could use a free copier, and then you need to use Trade-Evate, your Trade-Evate logins. So there we go. Pop Life, I'm happy to answer these, but the best way to find out about what we do is to really check out the Prop Done Right ebook. It's all answered in the ebook, and it'll direct you to actually a workspace that I have for Ninja that's absolutely free. It'll come with all the indicators that you're seeing here on the screen. I try to keep the indicators super simple. On this chart, all you're seeing is a VWAP indicator with 2 standard deviations and 13 strength swing, which is drawing these lines here and here. And then this line right here is a 233 EMA. Okay, the same as the 233 EMA over here, but over here the 230 EMA is way down here. Why is that? Because this is based on a tighter time frame, a tick chart. So, I mean, I can show this. I don't care. There's other stuff on here that's not meaningful. So the net change display is just showing the change from prior close. Then I have a price line on here. I have a 233 EMA. I have the order flow VWAP. So again, if you're going to do what I do, you need to have a paid license of NinjaTrader. And then I have the swing MNQ. Okay. Now I'm going to take another exit here for a loss, just because we're finally moving in directions. Allows me to go back and sell this up here. I have a 2 lot on here. We'll just watch the NASDAQ. I've been a bad boy today because, by the way, I'm long the Dow, but we haven't hit target here. If I had just done the Dow and gold, which is what we're supposed to do. Here's gold over here. Gold's been, let me get a
order submitted.
I'll do a buy there on gold and a buy here.
Order filled.
Into the close.
Order submitted.
So See if this NASI can come back into range here. All right. Can you do this in the web-based platform, or does it have to be downloaded version in ET? There is no web-based version of NT. You're probably referring to what they now call as Tradeovate. So no, you cannot do it on the web-based. You have to do it on the desktop. So good question there. If you log into your lead Tradeovate account on Ninja and TradingView, and you're copying on Ninja, then the trades you place in TradingView will execute on Ninja. That's true. That is true. It's all integrated, but you're not going to be able to manage any of that on TradingView. It's not manageable on TradingView. All you'll be able to see on TradingView is one of the accounts from one of the connected accounts, because you can't be logged into multiple instances of Tradeovate on TradingView. You can only pick one prop firm, right? So it's true, you'll see it, but it's not really going to work. Can I explain the 13-period swing? It just visually creates little turning points when you're using these brick wicks. I don't have it on a 5-minute or any time-based chart because it wouldn't be meaningful. The thing with, there's people are love-hate. I love them because I like more data. I like more swing levels. I like more brick wick reversals. I like more visual price patterns that I can see on the Renkos. Okay, if it's not your thing, just trade minute bars and it's no problem. Just don't believe the fantasy that there's any predictable price action based on a candlestick pattern. It is total bullshit. All that stuff that's sold, and I know those guys, and I know they've made a lot of money on it. I know there's people that believe in the shooting star and this and all that stuff. There is no predictive pattern. We spent 15 years testing every possible candlestick format. We're talking about Japanese candlesticks. Okay, I'm not saying that any of these brickwick patterns are predictable either. I'm just saying they allow me to manage trades and also see some swing levels that you would just not see on a 5-minute chart. So that's all. It's 13-period swing, and it's not period. It's a strength. Okay, so you just set your strength to 13. That's on a Ninja. On other things, it's a period. So, all right, now we got them really coming in. What do you do if the market is about to close and you're running out of time for the market to sell off? If you have an unprofitable position, you just hit the close button. I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm a day trader. I don't. For everything that I'm going to show and teach and do here on YouTube, I'm out of these positions by 2 p.m. I'll often, because most of the firms have gone to automatically closing you out or letting you to trade all the way up until 4:59 Eastern. Sometimes I'll just leave the positions open. I'll go get a bite to eat and I'll come back and just make sure I'm flat before 5. I used to hear all this stuff, this silly nonsense. I knew these people weren't traders. I can't use the prop programs because I'm a swing trader and then this, that, and the other. Then fine, just frickin' close the thing and reopen the exact same position. I mean, 1 out of every 40, 50 trading days, yes, you'll get some sort of gap and you'll end up paying more. The vast majority of the time, if you already had a profitable trade, you'll be able to get back in it. And if you had an unprofitable trade, you should have closed it anyway.
Order filled.
So, all right. What broker can you use? I don't know. You can use any broker you want. But the brokers that I use for what we're doing here are Interactive Brokers and NinjaTrader. But I don't do any live trades now at NinjaTrader. I'm not a happy man when it comes to NinjaTrader. The strategy that's showing on NT is the same that you use. What is the average win? Yeah, I don't get into all the stats about it. You can just come into the trade room and watch me trade. The key is you can't do any of that because I'm doing completely discretionary based trading across a bunch of accounts and a bunch of instruments. I'm not trying to confuse anybody. I'm just trying to show that if you keep it small at high probability areas, you can. My only job in the trade room is to manage risk as best I can and show people to have faith in the magic lines. Take the trades at the levels, manage risk accordingly, all that good stuff. Win rates and all that is not really that important. I have more data than I could possibly ever share with anybody. It ends up being, for the way I trade, about a 64-ish% win rate, and the ratios are about 1-to-1. So since this is active scalping, it's about $65-ish to $75 is the average win and the average loss. So sure there's the next guy wants to see my tax statements and whether my Porsches are leased or owned. The toughest thing, man, I need somebody to join my group so I can make my Rolex and AP payments, because you know I got all those financed. All right. I like that term, pregnant hanging hammers. No, friends don't let friends trade Forex. So this is all futures all the time. We got 3 more minutes until our. So now let's switch back from the ones that are kind of have pulled back a little bit, and we'll switch over to these. And I'm going to buy right here.
Order filled.
And then the order down there is to buy at 59.11. All it is just swing structure. Someone asked about the swings. You can see there's a little level here too at 59.18. I don't care what the bubbles are. I don't care what the order flow was. I don't care if there's some iceberg lettuce island there. It doesn't matter to me. It's just an area that the last 2 times, actually last 3 times, right? So the last 3 times, here, 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 and now will it happen again? I don't know. We shall see.
Order submitted.
Now, if the market were to rip down and go much below 21,282, I'll just hit the close button, close it. As we have 1 more minute, we'll see what happens right here. Which way do they want to go? Usually you get a little like a little hiccup action. Keep the questions coming if you have them. I couldn't fit in a Lambo. I couldn't fit my ego in a Lambo. So good question about this strategy. If you're doing it the way it's taught, it would be what you're seeing up here. So we're short. We're taking shorts in the offer zone here. Okay, so I'm short the Dow. Sorry, I'm short the S&P. I'm short the Nasdaq. I'm long the Dow. The Dow has been beautiful today. If you've watched my last 8 or 9 streams, I just sat on the Dow, and we've been profitable every single day, just trading the Dow. Okay. But yes,
Order
really,
filled.
based on what's going on, you'd have a whole lot of nothing here. Like, I mean, it's just kind of silly chop, right? So that was a pretty weak, muted kind of move, relatively speaking. Weak sauce. All right, what do we want to watch? Let's just watch the S&P into the close. Can buyers give us a heroic last quick move through that 26s? We'll see. Or can we get our first check-in with VWAP that we've had kind of all day since we started here? Okay, so downloaded the ebook. So Chris, I answered your question. You would be taking trades if you wanted to as fades here, sells. Sell, Mortimer, sell.
Order filled.
Suck it, Nasdaq. Here we go. Come on. Can I wait for it, or should I just drag it into price? What do you think? I think we're going to drag it into price. Tease me. Don't get away from me. Yeah.
Order
I'm going to
filled.
take it because now it allows me to sell this. I would
Order
make this box
submitted.
up here red. Just. Okay. So now this line right here is called the +1s. We've come back inside range here. So this now makes this a short as well. We're just trading around this position.
Order submitted.
Probably going to be losing money on the Dow long as the market comes in. Making money on this NASDAQ, which I'm going to move down.
Order filled.
Hopefully I moved that fast enough. You think we can come all the way to VWAP? God, that would be amazing. Probably unlikely, but could happen. It could really happen. It knows the aerodynamics of the cliff. All right, we picked up a Dow. No, we didn't. Sorry. The Dow long will be at 42,251. The Dow has been all about United Healthcare today. So I called my mama today. We're up a ridiculous amount of money in the last 6 weeks because kind of sold everything at the beginning of the year and then timed getting back in. She's having fun, 81 years old. So today we did buy quite a bit of United Healthcare. I was like, she's like, I don't like United Healthcare, all this stuff. I said, listen, it's just about money. So that's affecting the Dow today. If this wasn't in there, you could see the Dow would be up nice. I mean, look at Cat Tractor, AMD, Apple. AMD's not in the Dow. Why do I have that there? Is AMD in the Dow? I don't think so. I should know that. I've only been doing this for who knows. They keep trading what's in. They keep changing what's in the Dow. Keep changing it.
Order submitted.
All right.
Order filled.
Popping back up. Go, Dow. Oh, we didn't get another fill.
Order submitted.
Man, they ripped the NASDAQ yesterday into the close, didn't they? So we'll see what happens here. We're up a whopping $34 in the live tracking account there. All right, 5 more minutes, so let me get to any questions if you have them. Do I trade during the algo time frame? I don't know what that means. I trade essentially look at the markets most of the cash session unless I'm doing important things like Pilates or having a massage or working out. So I don't know what the algo time frame is. I think the best time to learn, and I've said this before, is during the first 90 minutes of the cash session each day, maybe an hour before the market opens. Suck it, NASDAQ. Here we go.
Order filled.
There we go, baby. All right, now we're along the Dow.
Order filled.
Along the Dow. Oh, this might work out. Anyone got a short on? You got a short in any of the in either S&P or the NASDAQ? Or let's see if we can get some love on this Dow long into the close.
Order submitted. Order submitted.
So I want to be very clear. I'll put this on the screen. See, this is near the daily risk budgets, but not quite. Okay, unprofitable day. For those that always go, I just go in here and I don't trade whatever. So we're making back. I had to close everything before I went to the gym today because we were down. I was short the NASDAQ and that thing was not working out. So you just keep my risk budgets on these accounts is $880. So you can see a couple of them were close, but again, these are much bigger accounts. So by much bigger, I mean whopping $7,500 accounts. And we're eating into those losses. You know, if market keeps going down here, if I get a fill at 58.95s, up. This is a live account here, up 123. This is going to be a key level. Can we get through this level right here? But I'm holding this for a while. I'll turn this into a little bit of a swing. I'm pretty happy with 21,338 as my sell level. There's algos that are on all day long. There are some market on close things. The notifications come out about 50 minutes before the market, and then they officially publish them, I guess, at 10 till, and that's when you see those little interactions. What are the trading hours for this strategy? You can trade it anytime you want, as soon as there's 50% range. So it's not meant to be traded kind of in the overnight or the reopen, because you just don't have enough range. You need, look how big so check this out. If you measure this, anyone, how about a member of my group tell me what the 7-day ATR is right now on the S&P? What's the 7-day ATR right now on the S&P? I guarantee you 51 is a good percentage of it. That's like 40% ATR is just the distance between VWAP and the plus twos here. So the answer is anytime you've had at least enough range, you can look to trade the stay in your lane. And then the range trader over here is really a 24-hour thing. That's why I use this to trade the Bund and treasuries. All right. I thought it was higher than that. We have it at 112. We have it at 112, right? In our group, 112. 7-day ATR, not taking out the weekends and all that. We have it set to 23 by 5, or 24 by 7, basically. All right, crude oil. That's $11, everybody. Tell them where you got it. Tell them where you got it.
Order filled. Order submitted.
Tell them
Order
where you got
submitted.
it. Oh, Dow. We need a pop from the Dow and a drop from the S&P. Could happen. Yeah, 112 is what we got. All right, I think we answered all those. Lots of interaction today. Thank you very much. If you're just joining, you can go back, but what I covered today was trade copying. I covered it in my own unique way, which was getting on a bunch of tangents and jumping all over the place, but I used the text of the blog post to do a pretty good job. So here's that article. And then I could be biased, but I think I'm working on having the greatest day trading futures website ever assembled. I think my help library alone is better than, honestly, I swear to God, I think it's better than anything out there because I've spent so much time on it. So if you go to support right here, help library, I tag all of the blog posts with terms, so if you put in trade copying or whatever, you can find whatever you're looking for. All right, that's the closing bell. And check it out. Here we go. There you go. All right, Dow, I'm going to hit the close button. So that trade is not working. So what do you do when it's just not going your way? And you see in this account, closed is minus 750, but we have some winners happening here, so could eat into it a little bit. I'm going to run a buy stop right up here.
Order submitted.
Because I don't want to give back. And then see how these swings just give you some nice levels that you wouldn't see anywhere else? Can you see that? So that's where I put another sell limit in. And I'm only going to do this for another 5 minutes or so, and then I'm just going to close everything, and that'll be it. Do you know what is used to make the VWAP standard deviation? I've tried doing it, and they don't often match what you are seeing. I'm not sure why. If you want it to match what I'm doing, you just use the order flow one that's included in Ninja. There are some external plugins, but we have our settings exactly the same. So if you can't do it on Ninja, it should be very close over here on Trade It, using this indicator, which is called VWAP Standard Bands V2 Mod. So let's just do a quick spot check. Like plus twos are coming in around 59.45, right? 59.45. And they're 59.45. See right here? So if you want them to be the same, use the order flow from NinjaTrader, or you can use this one from whatever. And if you guys are really interested, the settings are 128, 2, 2, 251, 3. I don't put any others, but we use 128, so not 1 and 2. We use 128 and 2. Okay, so it's actually 1.28. All right, everybody, thanks so much. Stay green, trade like you mean it. Remember, Prop Done Right, Futures Foundation course, both of those are totally free. Everything in the trade room is completely free. You get access to absolutely everything we do except for the Extreme Turn Indicator or our members Discord. Other than that, you get everything else. I don't charge for Discord. I don't charge for indicators. The only thing you can pay me for is one-to-many mentoring, which is checking out and becoming a member, hopefully a lifetime member of our trade room. Make it be the last $2,500 or $2,000 or whatever that you ever invest or ever need to invest in your trading education. And don't buy it if you don't see value, right? That's it. Don't buy some crappy course from me or from anybody. All that stuff should be free, right? All my trading education, everything I do, it's always going to be free. That's why I've decided to, and believe me, they keep approaching me. Some big prop firms have approached me and asked me to put some paid content together that they could promote. I swear I could make $1 million from it because I could sell thousands of copies for $200. Is 1,000 copies at $200 $1 million? No, it's not. I'd have to sell 5,000 copies, but I could probably do that. But you don't need to do that. You can learn everything you need to learn for free. But then I do believe that you need to deliberately practice and be able to interact with a group of people that are doing it and showing you that it's possible so that you can believe. You don't have to stress yourself out or watch these. There's now some guy on YouTube that's got 2,000-3,000 people watching him trade the NASDAQ at Apex accounts in a bozo way over leveraged, all this nonsense. It's total nonsense. This is the right way to do it, and you can do it, and you can make progress. That's the only thing that I'll ever suggest you put your hard-earned money is to commit to doing it, and if you buy a lifetime license, then you're there for as long as it takes. We have people that signed up in 2019 that I should probably be paying them to leave the group because the trade room cost me $10 per month per user, and they bought a lifetime license for $1,000 5 years ago, so their cost basis per day is probably 10 cents. Cry me a river, I know. All right, thanks for the interaction, everybody. Stay green.